Hi guys, my name is Marcel and welcome back to my second channel. And today's episode is going to be the last episode of ARTAID for now. More about that at the end of the video. And also, yeah, one of my flower pots broke and I still didn't get a replacement. Who cares? Let's get drawing like a sir. Okay, now here's entry number 1. It's this lovely artwork of a skeleton holding a glowing butterfly. In their message, they just simply asked about any changes at all, and I think it's a nice example as to why I also thought about ending the series. Not because of your artwork in particular, it's not your fault or something. But I sometimes feel like my tips in this format are getting really repetitive. Like, okay, if you watched any of the other episodes, you instantly know what I'm about to say here. So let's jump right into it and I'll tell you my thoughts on this artwork. So you might remember from the other episodes, but let's identify the light sources here. The light sources are obviously the heart as well as the butterfly. There's also the moon in the back, but it doesn't seem like the moon's supposed to be the focus here, so let's ignore that for now. Now, what do we say about the light sources? Exactly, they should be the brightest thing on screen. And they kinda are bright, but not really that much brighter than the actual skeleton in comparison. There's no contrast in this artwork. I personally really like high contrast artwork, so let's give it a spin like I usually do. First of all, let's give both of our light sources a really bright core. Like I said in all the previous entries, the core usually has no color. Colored lights is something you see in a more dimmed lighting setup, but since this artwork looks like you want the light to really bounce off a lot, this light needs to be very, very bright. Don't worry, you can still give it a color glow after the fact, but the most important thing is that the actual core is a lot brighter. And don't worry about things like the veiny pattern on the butterfly, you can still add that if you wanna, just keep it a bit lighter. Now, there's still a lot of light in your artwork, but it still looks kind of flat. Obviously, because you have a lot of light, but there is absolutely no shadow to be seen here. Most people are scared of going too dark, but you have to if you want the light to bounce off like this. You can't be afraid to go really dark with your shadows. That's what I'm doing in my artworks as well. And they really wouldn't look as dramatic as they do if I would be afraid of going really dark with the shadow areas. The Zelda piece here is something I did recently where you can really see what I mean here. Contrast is king. Right now your skeleton here is basically lit up from every side, but that obviously doesn't make a lot of sense. This lighting situation, at least in real life, would usually work like this. The skeleton is in a really dark environment, so obviously everything here would be very dark. So that's why I'm basically shading everything here. So far so good, everything's shaded, everything's dark, and this very dark scene is now lit up by both of our lights. Also, because this wasn't obvious to some of y'all before, I'm just doing it very quick and dirty so that people understand the critique that I have about this artwork. I'm obviously not redrawing the whole artwork here or going into detail. So the butterfly light lit up the face and some frontal parts of the skeleton, while the heart on the inside lights up the rib cage from the inside. Like I said, very quick and dirty, but you can get the gist of it. You could always render to infinity here, like for example, you could give the highlights a bit of a hue, make them brighter, and so on and so forth. Maybe you also want some very weak lighting on the back of the skull, since there's still the moon up there in the top right corner. Lots of things to do here, but I'm just doing the basics so that you could get what I'm getting at here. So this is our before and after. Like I said, I did a very quick job on this, but if you went into detail here, this could look really good if it's a bit more polished. Next entry. Now we also have our second entry, which is by Nathan Palmer. It's this headshot and it's obviously just a black and white drawing, nothing regarding shading or coloring or lighting. The only message I got with it was, help me, something's off. I don't know what it is, just help me with it. And yes, there's a reason why I've picked out a drawing like this in particular. And it's because these are like 90% of the submissions I get for ARTAID. It's mostly just drawings of bodies and faces that are weirdly proportioned, and my only advice here would be to just practice proportions. Full stop. That's all I can say about it. And these are by far the most submissions I get for ARTAID, and it's getting really repetitive to me. But for this last episode, I thought we could do something special here and actually apply some of the proportions to this artwork. So let's do just that. Okay, so let's fix the proportions of this portrait here. First of all, I'm fading the original out in order to show you what proportions I'll be using. I'll be using proportions that are very Loomis inspired. Pretty sure you guys know the Loomis method from my videos by now. Always keep in mind though, this is obviously just a basic template. Human faces can vary drastically, but this technique is a very good starting point. If you want to learn these proportions, or the Loomis technique by the way, just check out my tutorial on YouTube. This Loomis guideline here probably isn't going to be perfect by the way, but I'm just scribbling out some very basic guidelines that we'll be going for. Now let's compare this to your headshot and the face that you came up with. I'm fading it out, and you can see why you are so unhappy with your drawing of the face. It's probably because your proportions are so outlandish. Giant eyes, giant ears, a giant nose, and so on. So let's try to push it into place and see how this face would look like with Loomis proportions. I'm just roughly shifting everything to where it should be in the template so that the rough placement of your features fit. But I'm also going to adjust the proportions. And while I'm doing this, you can probably tell I'm shrinking a lot of these features down by quite a bit. Especially the eyes are huge, and again, that's fine if you're going for something more stylized, but since this is probably a portrait, we're just going for some realistic proportions here. There are still some things that are kind of off, like the perspective of the nose, for example, so I'll just quickly sketch out the nose myself, just so it fits the template. I don't want to be stuck here pushing things into place for all eternity. So yeah, this is your artwork with Loomis-like proportions and a quick nose job. I changed basically nothing besides size and placement and the nose obviously, and here's a before and after with your original proportions versus the corrected version. Really goes to show how much proportions really matter. Again, for everyone who wants to get into the Loomis method, just check out my video on it. So yeah, this episode of ARTAID basically covers 90% of all of your entries that you guys have sent me in the past couple of months. Watch your proportions and placements and check your light sources. That's kinda it. And for the other 10% of the entries, I covered pretty much everything else in the last couple of episodes of ARTAID. In case you haven't checked them out yet, give them a shot. You might like them. Because this has been the last episode of ARTAID, like I teased at the beginning. And there are a couple of reasons. For one, I really hate this. Like, I really love designing a set and setting everything up and coming up with the lighting setup and stuff, but even without my face, I just cringe seeing myself in front of a camera. I'm just really still uncomfortable standing here doing this. But that's obviously not the main reason, alright? So, as you might know, I do not have a lot of spare time in my life. I'm always working on books or new artworks, or I'm doing workshops and stuff. Always. That's why I hired someone to edit this format for me. It's Benjamin, who has done a wonderful job so far, and I kinda expected this format to do a lot better than it actually has. I don't know why these videos aren't really all that popular with you guys. All I know is that these ARTAID videos are the most unpopular videos on this channel. And also on my other YouTube channels where I have posted them. This obviously means less views, and this obviously means no money. And no money means no way of hiring and paying an editor for these. By the way, a big thank you to everyone who has been supporting me on Patreon so far. In order to pay Benjamin, the editor for these videos, I spent the money I got from you guys via Patreon over the last year or so. Because this channel really didn't make any money. So without your guys' support, there would not have been a single episode of ARTAID. I've had the idea for ARTAID in mind for years now, and I'm really glad I finally got to make it, even though it still bombed in the end. I'm still glad I gave it a shot. I really enjoyed making these after all. I enjoyed making a nice set and having a format that you guys can actively give feedback and submit art to. So I actually expected you might enjoy these videos just as much. but it kind of seemed like this wasn't the case. And that's okay. If you guys don't enjoy it as much, and I don't have the time or make the money with these to do it, maybe that's just the feedback that I need in order to stop making these videos and just do something different. Like my tier list on manga art. You guys really liked that one, so maybe there's gonna be more content like this. So yeah, I got lots of new ideas for videos. Maybe it's something you guys enjoy a bit more. Thank you so much for watching ARTAID so far. Stay tuned for the other video ideas that I have for this second channel of mine. I'll see you guys on the next upload. Goodbye.